This is the Taiwan Strait, a 180-kilometer wide channel separating the countries of Taiwan and the People's Republic of China. Usually millions of people fly back and forth between these two countries. And when COVID-19 broke out in Wuhan in December of 2019, experts thought that it was only a matter of time until Taiwan would be overrun with the virus. But that's not what happened. As coronavirus spread across 219 countries and territories, Taiwan was ready and waiting. They had been prepared for years and even predicted the threat before the Chinese government or the WHO had officially announced the outbreak. As a result, Taiwan seemingly managed to do the impossible. As of recording this video in April of 2021, Taiwan has had 1,030 cases of coronavirus and 10 deaths, making Taiwan the most effective country in the world at tackling COVID-19.
The government trusts citizens enough to take it seriously and treat it as if SARS has happened again, something we've always been preparing since 2003.
The week I am recording this in the UK, we have just come out of our third national lockdown. The vaccine rollout is going pretty well, and we have a roadmap back to some sort of normality. And the question that most Brits had was, when will the pubs reopen? No joke. So we can kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel. We're not there yet, and a third wave is making its way across continental Europe. And some countries are even going back into lockdown. And today I want to share a story about Taiwan, a country that didn't even need to impose a national lockdown. From the 1st of January 2020, they started to take action. And that was 4 days before the World Health Organization published their first disease outbreak news coverage, and 11 days before China publicly shared the genetic sequence of COVID-19. How did they do this? Mind readers, magic, what is going on? I'm gonna break it all down today. So before we get to the steps that they took on day one of 2020, we have to look at the SARS outbreak that swept across a handful of countries in 2003. Taiwan was one of the worst hit countries with 346 cases and 73 deaths. I touched on the SARS outbreak in my How Singapore is Beating COVID-19 video, which you can check out here. But essentially, in very similar circumstances, Taiwan was prepared for a future epidemic because they weren't going to be caught off guard again. So following SARS, the Taiwanese government set up a Central Epidemic Command Center underneath the Taiwan Centers for Disease Control, or the CDC. And it was CDC officials that saw permutations of a SARS-like illness in Wuhan being discussed and spread over Taiwanese social media. The CDC sent an email to the World Health Organization, the WHO, to alert the rest of the world. And over the next few days, the WHO stayed silent and the world remained oblivious. But on the 1st of January, Taiwan kicked off a health inspection for all flights coming in from Wuhan as the country prepared to mobilize. Taiwan understood the importance of acting fast, and by the 5th of January began monitoring all individuals that had traveled to Wuhan within the last 14 days and had exhibited a fever or symptoms of upper respiratory tract infections. These people were screened for 26 known pathogens, including SARS, and those that tested positive had to quarantine. And on the 20th of January, the Central Epidemic Command Center was activated. And unlike many countries, they didn't hesitate to do what needed to be done to stop Taiwan from being overrun by this virus. So let's look at some things Taiwan implemented throughout this pandemic to keep their numbers so low. And the first thing we need to look at is disinformation. The country has long been a victim of disinformation, supposedly from China, which regards the country as part of its territory. Taiwan's official name is the Republic of China, not to be confused with the People's Republic of China. In fact, Taiwan has been unable to join the UN or take part in WHO meetings due to China's opposition. But within Taiwan, its government actively pushes out daily press releases, texts, memes, and cartoon dogs to rebut false information around COVID-19. Audrey Tang, Taiwan's digital minister, said
every single day, the daily press conference gets translated by the spokesdog of the Ministry of Health and Welfare, saying if you're outdoor, you need to keep 2 doge away. If you're indoor, 3 doge away. So because all this go viral, we make sure that the factual humor spreads faster than rumor. And they serve as a vaccine, as inoculation, so that when people see the conspiracy theories, the R0 value of that will be below 1, meaning that those ideas will not spread.
That's amazing. Like, imagine if the government here employed a bunch of meme accounts from Instagram to stop the spread of false information. That aspect alone is so fascinating, but to bring this full circle, it was already quite common to wear a mask in Taiwan, but the country's approach to tackling disinformation was a major factor in convincing the population of wearing a mask and washing your hands. After SARS, a law was implemented that required hospitals to have a stockpile of PPE for at least 30 days in case of a pandemic. Masks were easily accessible to all citizens. There was even apps and maps made that showed pharmacies and convenience stores that had masks in stock, so you could just easily go and stock up. In fact, those that already had too many masks at home, the National Health Insurance's own app helped them donate those masks to countries in need. So next up, let's look at border control. Taiwan began shutting down to non-residents shortly after the pandemic started, and has kept tight controls over its borders ever since. Some say that this strict enforcement is what drives Taiwan's continuous success during this pandemic. As soon as you touch down, you have to fill out a form so they can identify any possible cases. You have to consent to the new regulations that have been put in place and to share your recent medical history. And the government then stay in touch with you over the next 14 days to monitor you and your temperature. And then when you leave the airport, it's in a government-provided taxi. So those that are returning to Taiwan have to either quarantine at home or have to go to one of their quarantine hotels and stay there for 2 weeks. The country also wisely used incentives to encourage people to take up the quarantine, paying them £27 a day, but if they fail to break it, they'll be fined up to 1,000 times that. And as of October 2020, about 340,000 people had been under home quarantine, with fewer than 1,000 fines for breaking it. That's around a 99.7% compliant rate. So whether in a hotel or at home, citizens are monitored by a digital fence. A smartphone signal provides a rough idea to where a person is located. The authorities can't see exactly where you are, but they can tell if you've left a general area. And if you do, the telecom company will automatically send the person quarantining a text and the health officer if they venture outside. And if your phone dies, a health officer will soon appear at your door. Audrey Tang also said this on the topic: the whole process is carried out with privacy in mind. We can't keep the data, and the telecom companies never hand it to third parties, so it can't be sold to advertisers. Taiwan's contact tracing app is seen as world-class. On average, 20 to 30 contacts are linked to one individual case. And all contacts must undergo home quarantine even if they test negative. And they very clearly understand that sacrificing 14 days is worth it for 23 million people to go about their normal routines. And it's certainly working. Taiwan has never imposed a national lockdown and has managed to resume a semi-normal way of life. Its economy took a dip, but in the last quarter of 2020, it rose by 5%. So as we round this out, I just want to quickly compare the UK to Taiwan, because there are many similarities in that both are islands ruled by democratic governments with large populations. More than 22 million people live in Taiwan, mostly in crowded cities with a public health system, which means medical care is widely accessible. And both were heavily exposed to travelers carrying coronavirus, the UK being an international travel hub, and Taiwan because of its closely woven culture and economic ties to China. And just over a year later, we in the UK have one of the world's worst death rates, with more than 130,000 people lost to coronavirus and more than 4 million people infected, myself included. Taiwan had 10 deaths in just over 1,000 documented cases, the vast majority among them being quarantine travelers. And the main difference being the approaches that the two governments took. The trust in the government is high in Taiwan since 2014. This month they've started to roll out the vaccine, and their quick actions and responses surely saved thousands of lives and have been a country to lead the example in how to effectively beat COVID-19. Thank you so much for tuning into this one. If you're new around here, my name is Andy. I make world explainers on this channel every Sunday. The goal that we have for this channel this year is to hit 10K subscribers. That's the plan, that's the goal, it's the dream. So if you found this video informative, then I would really appreciate if you hit the like button, left me a comment below on your thoughts, and most importantly, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. That is the best way to support this channel and help it grow. So once again, thanks for watching, stay safe, and I will see you guys in the next one.